Hey, everybody. It's 5:30 and I will call the meeting to order. We have actually a public hearing first on a planning issue that should never assume, but I think it's relatively straightforward. We'll take about 10 minutes and then we get into our regular council meeting, which has a very lengthy agenda tonight, including a couple of closed session items after with some guests coming in. So we'll just ask everybody to be succinct, be to the point, and we'll move things along. Otherwise, it'll be a long night. I'll call the public hearing to order at 5:30 and ask, are there any amendments to the agenda?
Through Mayor Lawrence, I have none.
Thank you. A motion to confirm the public hearing agenda for July 17th be approved as presented. Moved by Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Cassidy. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And declarations of pecuniary interest.
Through Mayor Lawrence, I have none.
Thank you. This public hearing is convened under the Ontario Municipal Act 2001 to close part of a road allowance at the location described below, pursuant to sections 8 and 9 of the Municipal Act 2001, to authorize the sale of the lands to the owners of the abutting land. The subject lands are locally known as 138 Front Street and are legally described as Plan M263, lots 5 to 6, parcel 17998, and lot 7, parcel 20750. The Development Services Manager will confirm how notice was served to advertise this public hearing.
Through Mayor Lawrence, notice was served through the local newspaper, a sign was posted on site, and mailouts to the adjacent landowners.
And the Development Services Manager will provide a summary of the application.
Through Mayor Lawrence, an offer to purchase the unopened road allowance has been received from Deborah Korbanek, who owns the abutting property known locally as 138 Front Street. The intent of the application is to acquire the road allowance lands to add to the existing property. At the May 17th, 2017 council meeting, council directed staff to move forward with the closing and sale of any interested abutting property owners of the unopened road allowance between Front Street and King Street at the west end. The unopened road allowance subject to this application is located between Front Street and King Street and abuts 138 Front Street. Council has the option of requiring a market value appraisal if they feel the addition of the road allowance will substantially increase the value of the lot. The applicant would be responsible for the cost of market value appraisal. It is recommended that the standard sale/purchase price of $1,000 plus HST be applied to the sale. The addition should not add a significant increase in the value of the parcel.
Thank you. The Development Services Manager will read any correspondence received from government agencies and municipal staff.
Through Mayor Lawrence, no comments were received.
Thank you. And the Development Services Manager will read any correspondence received from the public.
Through Mayor Lawrence, no comments were received.
The applicant or a representative is invited to speak to the application. Is the applicant present or a representative that wishes to speak? Would you wish to speak?
I just, I bought that property.
State your name, please, for the record. Yeah, thanks.
Debbie,
Thank you.
yeah, I bought the property in 2019 and before COVID, and actually the north end of the house actually sits in that back lane of that road allowance. And so this would bring me to be compliant as well if I wanted to do any tearing down renovations.
Thank you. Questions from members of council? See none. And members of the public are invited to speak to the application. The public can ask questions of clarification or seek background information, speak in support of the application, or speak in opposition to the application. All questions will be directed through the chair. It is requested that only one question be asked at a time. Please identify yourself before you ask your question so that you can be properly recorded in the minutes of the hearing. Are there any members of the public present who wish to speak to the application? Any members of the public present wishing to speak to the application? Seeing none. This is a public hearing convened under the Ontario Municipal Act 2001 to close part of a road allowance at the location described below, pursuant to sections 8 and 9 of the Municipal Act 2001, to authorize the sale of the lands to the owners of the abutting lands Subject lands are locally known as 138 Front Street and are legally described as Plan M263, lots 5 to 6, parcel 17998, and lot 7, parcel 2758. There is no appeal process. And then we have two motions, or is it just the one motion? Just the one. The council receives manager of development services report dated July 17, 2024, respecting the road allowance closure and sale application for the unopened road allowance adjacent to Deborah Corbanic's property at 138 Front Street, Sioux. And further, the council authorizes the passing of bylaw number 61-24, being a bylaw to permanently close, declare surplus, and authorize the sale of a highway of the municipality of Sioux, 138 Front Street. Moved by Councillor Bone, seconded by Councillor Van Breda. All in favor? Carried. And bylaw number 68-24, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of Municipality of Sioux, July 17, 2024, public hearing, be read a first, second, and third time in the past. Moved by Councillor Timpson, seconded by Councillor Van Breda. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And the public hearing is adjourned. Thank you. I'll call the regular council meeting to order at 5:36 p.m. and ask, are there any amendments to the agenda?
Mayor Lawrence, arising from the public hearing, I believe council wished to add item 7.10, road allowance closure and sale respecting 138 Front Street, as well as under section 10, I believe council wished to add bylaw 61-24 to authorize the closure, the declaration of surplus and sale of the unopened road allowance.
Thank you. And so a motion to confirm the agenda for the council meeting July 17th, 2024 as amended. Moved by Councillor Cassidy, seconded by Councillor Bone. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And declarations of pecuniary interest.
Through Mayor Lawrence, I have none.
Thank you. We have some minutes to adopt. The minutes of the June 10th, 2024 special council meeting minutes and the June 19th, 2024 regular council meeting minutes be approved as presented. Moved by Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Cassidy. Any discussion on those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. And a motion that the minutes of the May 30th, 2024 and April 25th, 2024 District of Kenora Home for the Aged Board meeting be received. Moved by Councillor Van Breda, seconded by Councillor Bowen. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Termination of items requiring separate discussion. Go through the 10 items. 7.1. Land sale and transfer. 7.2, Hillcrest project update. I think we need to let this as a decision. No? Okay.
Sorry. Yes, my apologies.
Okay, thank you. So we lift this one, decision. 7.3, award the Front Street and Third Avenue asphalt overlay contract project to AJ Positano. Simpson. 7.4, Sioux access points boat launches planning for the future. 7.5, Canada Community Building Fund Agreement. Simpson. 7.6, municipal 2024 municipal operating budget to actual first quarter. Councilor Costello. 7.7, electronic fund transfer policy. 7.8, Community Safety and Policing Act and Sioux Code OPP Detachment Board matters. Partnership. Yes.
7.7. That question.
You want to lift 7.7?
Yeah.
7.8, Community Safety and Policing Act and Silicate OPP Detachment Board Matters Partnership Agreement, Board Member Remuneration, Detachment Board Budget, Apportionment of Costs, Billing Statement Intervals. 7.9, amendments to procedure bylaw to provide for hybrid meetings. That's Cassidy.
Decision with that, or just if we don't.
Councillor Cassidy is lifted.
Oh, okay.
7.10, road allowance. I think so matters requiring separate discussion will be item 7.2, 7.3, 7.4, 7.5, 7.6, 7.7, 7.9. Agree? Adoption of items not requiring separate discussion. Item 7.1, 7.8, item 7.10. A motion to adopt those items. Councillor Cassidy, seconded by Councillor Van Breda, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. And now delegations. We have 2 delegations this evening, and just a reminder for delegations, that you can have as many speakers as you like. Delegations are granted 10 minutes at the discretion of the chair. Delegations present information. Council may ask questions if they will not enter into debate. Delegations requesting funding are not never decided at the meeting. Or any request is not decided at the meeting. If council so decides, it will refer the request to the CAO for a staff report at a subsequent council meeting. Said that, thank you very much. Our first delegation is MRI, Transforming Our Regional Healthcare One Image at a Time, Silicate Manningham Health Center Foundation. The table will be yours, and you can start by introducing yourselves, and off you go.
Good evening. I'm Christine Hoey. I'm representing the Silicate Manningham Health Foundation and the Health Center Board.
I'm Laurel Laxo. I'm the chief of staff of the hospital and one of the local physicians.
Okay, so we originally sent a request to the municipality in April to have a formal meeting to discuss our plans for the MRI at our local hospital, with a suggestion to the town council to contribute through the municipal accommodation funds, knowing that the annual budget was being finalized. This funding would kick off our campaign to contact surrounding municipalities to contribute. The MRI campaign aims to raise $7 million to ensure that we can have the best possible health care for our residents and our northern partners. It's the missing piece at our facility. To date, we have raised approximately $2.5 million with donations coming in daily. From December 1st until yesterday, that number was $500,000, with another $65,000 coming in the next week. We are confident that this initiative will not only enhance the quality of life for our residents, but will also serve as an exemplary model on how the communities of Northwestern Ontario can work together for proper health care closer to home. To bring this vision to life, we are seeking the funding assistance from town council. Specifically, we're asking for a commitment of $75,000 over a 3-year period. We have already had meetings with our government officials. We've reached out to SLIFNA and to NAN to support us by contacting the North, the northern communities, as well as the federal and provincial governments. We believe that town council's support will be instrumental in demonstrating our town's commitment to bring the MRI to Silicate. We have mailed out asking for financial support to every mailbox in Silicate, Hudson, Pickle Lake, Savant Lake, Vermilion Bay, Red Lake, Dryden, Oxdrift, Ear Falls, Ignace, Bombertown. Our next step in this campaign is to contact all municipal offices in those communities asking for similar contribution in the hope that they will show support for an MRI closer to home. Thank you. If you have any questions, Laurel can ask any.
You'll have to share the mic when council, any questions? Councilor Van Breda?
The first question, you asking for $75,000 over the next 3 years? That's correct, right?
Yes, correct.
Sure. So I know that the city of Kenora and the city of Dryden are also looking at getting an MRI machine as well. Do you know, their respective city councils putting any money away, or what's the funding module for them as well? Are they doing the same things as fundraising generally?
Perhaps the first, the answer there would be to confirm. that-
Yes, so no, Dryden has not been confirmed to have an MRI in their hospital. The plan for Kenora is when they get their new hospital, that they will ask for an MRI in their new hospital. We don't know what that'll happen, if they will get one, if we already have one. But the plan is to have it here.
Councilor Pearson.
Yeah, thanks, thanks, Christine. Do you have any sense of the numbers of patients that we've sent for MRIs that are made from here as well as the other communities?
I'm gonna ask.
Just thinking, the numbers speak.
Yeah, for sure. And Dean, our CEO has just stepped in, so feel free, Dean, to interrupt me. We were actually just speaking to this today. We got the data from Orange. We send about 3 patients a week for an MRI. So that's a fairly significant amount of patients going on a regular basis from here. So this is definitely an imaging modality that is becoming much more part of bread and butter medical care. It forms the foundation of a lot of clinical diagnoses now. So having this piece of equipment will make a huge difference for our healthcare providers and for the community.
Yeah, I would assume that there's more people go that are not going by an Orange, they're driving down or whatever.
Correct, yeah.
And just wondering if, I think it'd be really helpful for council, as well as the other communities, to know if there are numbers that even do quantify that will be used here. You know, sometimes the people who drive.
Yeah, go ahead, Dean.
So Joyce, so that was all in that capital solution, and also, we have been, if we could demonstrate that we need full-time MRI here, we have enough work for over 1,950 hours, which constitutes full-time. We've been allocated for 2,050 hours, so it's over and above a full-time equivalent that machine will be running here. We've demonstrated that.
Yeah, just thinking in terms of selling it to the other communities to contribute. So I think we'll need to know the numbers that they have been sending down.
Yeah, so Joyce, from, now I'll speak from Melissa, but that information's all going out the pathway, so going out to those, to anybody and all the donor factors.
Council. Councilor Henry.
Last thing, just like, how has the problems in the feds been about this? Because for me, it makes sense because we're in the middle between Thunder Bay and Winnipeg. Yeah, this is probably, if we have an MRI here in Sioux, that would save the government money for accommodations, transportation, going to Thunder Bay or going to Winnipeg. What is the problems in the feds to the politics? So they just, is it giving the benefit of the doubt, but maybe they don't understand how important we are as a region and everything, or is it they're busy with other crises right now?
A little bit of all of that. I think we have though been meeting and have had SLFNA representatives at our committee meetings, because we realize they are going to be able to help us get the push for this to happen. Sioux First Nations also is on board. And again, we've had talks with, as well as SLFNA, Donnie Morris from Trout Lake and Clifford Bull from Sioux. And we know with their support, because we can meet, we met with Saul via Zoom, we met with Eric via Zoom, and they understand it for sure, 100%. I feel as a Northern resident that Southern Ontario doesn't feel it for us. But that's okay. We're going to this. We believe this is going to happen. We just need as much support as we can, and financially, obviously, as well. But any letters of support that we can get to go along with it, for sure, 100%. We have met with, and I know Dean has over the last year since we were awarded the MRI in Sioux, because not every community is awarded an MRI. He has been constantly meeting and talking and discussing and numbers and people and for us on our behalf. And just most recently, SLFNA did send a letter to Patty Hadju, asking for her support and reminding them of the fourth party agreement that our hospital has.
What's your timeline? When are you hoping to have all this money?
Let me speak to that.
Yeah,
So we have an RFP out. So once that closes, we're looking 3 weeks to evaluate, we would probably have to award by the end of September. So we need them to know that we're going to be over that hump.
so I believe, Dean, we talked about sort of the halfway mark. If we know that we have half the money in the bank in the next 3 months, we're going for it. Because we have to build a building.
Several members of the public have asked me, and this might be a good time to explain this, that why $7 million, the MRIs cost 1 or 2 million, and there's portable or smaller options available. What's driving the need for the 7 million?
So first of all, we would not be able to house it. We have nowhere inside our building at this point in time, so this has to be an actual external build. It was actually part of the campus plan there, which you were part of, and you actually allowed for that MRI to go off the BI, which is very exactly go. And that was very good planning. And so there's the build, and an MRI machine on 1.5 Tesla is what our BI and what imaging we require. So like we have a mammo hair mammography, and in order to do those kind of imaging, we needed a minimum of 1.5 Tesla. So like there's 1.5, 2, 3, something, it keeps on going up and up. So this is the minimum that we require. The machine's probably gonna cost us somewhere around 2 million, and then the rest will be in the build to house that machine.
Thank you.
And portable is, I mean, we looked at this and we reviewed this many years ago. First of all, it's only going to be on site once and wherever, and that's not what's going to meet the needs for our population. We did an MRI on site because again, we've already demonstrated, we can show that we can demonstrate 2,050 hours that we require an MRI here. So having an MRI for a week every 3 months is really not very practical. And it wouldn't serve the clients, and it doesn't certainly help us with recruitment and retention of physicians. You just can't wait for an MRI to get here in a month's time or 2 months' time.
Thank you. Council, any further questions for the delegation? Thank you very much for your presentation. Any final words?
Yeah, thank you. You all received a package. If you want more information or if you're interested, we not that you have to get, but we do have a MRI committee meeting monthly. So if you'd like to, it's open to whoever would like to attend, just to find out where we're at and what the next phase is. We plan to do fundraising efforts ourselves as a foundation all through the summer and into the fall. And again, until this happens, so that we're out and about. Melissa Slade has been at all the farmers markets. She'll be at the trade show. And again, we're hoping to get some of the people that are coming to town for the festival to, former residents to get on board. And just if you need any more information, we can reach out and tell you when the next meeting is. Then you can ask more questions as well, if you'd like.
Thank you. And just before you go, one more question. It's 25,000 starting in 2025, 26 and 27.
We'd like 25,000 in 2024, 25 and 26, if possible. Yes, so that we can make the announcement. We don't physically need the money in the bank until September or October, but we knew that the budget was already sort of decided when we did this.
So the request is 25,000 a year.
3 years,
You're requesting to start in 24.
if at all possible.
Thank you.
So when we go to Dryden or Kenora, Port Francis, Rainy River, Red Lake, we can say the check is in the mail, basically. Thank you. Thanks.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Simpson, one last question.
You could comment more on some of the points you made in the package about the other value of having an MRI here, just in terms of attracting healthcare professionals here. Can you maybe expand on that?
Yeah, I'm happy to tackle that one, Joyce. I think we're a very under-resourced region. I think we all know that. Certainly our hospital, when we look at the services offered in Kenora and other places that serve a catchment area of this size, we're definitely underserviced. And as I said earlier, the MRI is really beginning to overtake CT and a bunch of other imaging modalities as being a very significant basis for diagnosis. So as a physician, when you're trying to decide where it is that you want to practice, right? Being able to access the tests that allow you to make this clinical decisions and provide the kind of care that you want to provide is really essential. It's a very big draw for radiology, really big draw for diagnostic imaging as well. And I think even in terms of drawing other professionals and people to this region, having a hospital that's really well serviced and is able to provide those kinds of supports, I think it goes a long way. So I know this is a very generous town council. I've been here before asking for money. This is a very generous community, but if you really want to invest in the future, this is something very tangible to put money towards.
Yeah, just a comment, I think it's really important to emphasize some of those secondary gains that, I don't think secondary, they're basically primary as well, that it will expand our entire health system and attract doctors to come and stay there. I think we're 66% of the people in Sioux don't have a family doctor, and it's becoming a dire situation. We need to be doing everything we can to attract people to come and stay here.
And there's so many barriers to care, Joyce. Sorry, I wasn't interrupting, but I think what happens is people actually don't get the care, right? When you have to wait so long and you have to arrange transfer, you have to drive in the winter, you have to find someone to drive you, right? People just aren't getting the care, right? And then that has downstream effects in terms of what their long-term outcomes are and mobility and all those sorts of things, right? So it's not even a matter of bringing it close to home. In many cases, it's actually giving people the care that they need. So
again, that's another thing that is valuable to emphasize. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Joyce, I mean, I think we need to really emphasize what Dr. Last was saying about underservice. And when she compares to Kenora, for example. So Kenora has an ICU. And our acuity, we know our acuity is higher, our volumes are higher than Kenora. We need an ICU here. We need a step down ICU. And there's no way that that's something that's even a bit feasible without an MRI machine. And that's where we're at. We are an underserviced organization that needs to start. And we are working on the ministry, not just MRI, long-term care, you know, an ICU and Schedule 1 beds, the mental health addictions that we see coming through our doors. These, we need to really beef up our services here. And an MRI is a really big important part of that.
And just one more point before we know for a fact that people are not going to Thunder Bay for their MRI. So they're being asked, they're being set up for an appointment because they need future or further testing. They either can't get there, they don't want to drive in January to Thunder Bay, they're afraid of the highways, or they can't afford to take time off work because you have to take 2 days off work to do it. So we know that's happening right now, which means our people are not getting the care they deserve because we have to drive 4 hours to get a 20-minute test.
Thank you. CAO, can I suggest that with council support that staff bring back a report on this? I would ask at the next council meeting, given the timelines I've outlined, if not possible, then September at the very latest, outlining options for council to consider on this request. Council good with that? Good. Thank you very much. Thank you, delegation. And we have a second delegation this evening. So, sorry, Sarah, do you need a vote on that motion, or that's the direction is adequate? Thank you. Sioux Food Bank request for donation of proceeds from sale of 5 and 7 Carlton Drive. Presenter, Hope Spindler. a little button in the center of the mic stand there that you can push and it'll light up. And I didn't know the one on, you got it, yep.
Well, thank you for giving us time this evening at the council meeting. After that presentation, this doesn't seem like very much. But we appreciate all the town council has done for us at the food bank so far. Jillian Jenkins is with me tonight. She's a board member. I'm just an advisor to the board, but they've asked me to be the spokesperson tonight. So I'm just going to read a letter that Amanda Landgraf, who is our manager of the food bank, has written to you. So the letter goes like this. Dear Mayor Lawrence and town councilors, request for donation proceeds from the sale of 5 and 7 Carlbaum Drive. As you know, the Sioux Lookout Food Bank recently purchased 5 and 7 Carlbaum Drive with funds donated from businesses and individuals in the area. We are continuing to fundraise for phase 2 and phase 3 of our building project, which will be excavation and construction. We hope to begin phase 2 in the spring of 2025. After making our initial offer to Finway, we became aware that the town of Sioux Lookout received a small portion of the sale of all lots of that subdivision. I believe the town has now received $3,684.88 after the closing of 5 and 7 Carlbaum Drive. The Sioux Lookout Food Bank would like to request the town of Sioux Lookout donate those proceeds from the sale back to the food bank. We would designate those funds directly back into our building fund for phase 2. Thank you for your consideration of our request. We look forward to hearing your decision. Sincerely, Amanda Landgraf, Manager, Sioux Lookout Food Bank.
Questions? Questions? Councilor Liz.
Yeah, can we just get a confirmation on the number from treasurer?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, that number is correct.
Thank you.
Questions? Councilor Andrea.
So when we put that $3,000, if it wasn't for the food bank, would it just go back to the coffers, or would it just?
CAO.
Mayor Lawrence, so the all land proceeds sales are automatically transferred to the land development reserve.
That's what I.
And where does the land reserve sit at today?
I'll refer that to the treasurer. We may not have that number in front of you, but typically, the land development reserve is where council pulls from to, when it's trying to make lands available to help with servicing costs, those kinds of things. But sorry, I don't have the current balance with us, but that will come back in the report to council. I'm assuming council will correct this for a report as well.
Further questions, council? Could you give us an update on the number of food baskets you're getting out to needy people on a monthly basis? Just a rough idea.
I believe we're still right around the between 80 and 90, sometimes even more than that per month is what we're getting out. Per week, actually. Is it per week? Yeah. Yeah. About where it just stays pretty consistent with where it's always been. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Any further questions? So this, do you have any other comments or?
No, that's it.
So thank you very much, delegation, and CAO asked you on behalf of council to bring back a report for council's consideration. And I think this one we might ask for, the same time frame, August, September. So that's, I'll come back to council. Thank you very much. All right, we'll begin the items requiring separate discussion. Item 7.2, Hillcrest project update. The council received for the project update cost, and further the council gives direction to staff on how they would like to proceed with land improvements. And CAO, can you sort of set the stage here or have staff? Thank you.
Certainly, thank you, and through you, Mayor Lawrence. So with respect to land improvements, there's a variety of options outlined in the staff report that council can consider. And I am also going to have our economic development officer and treasurer walk council through a little bit, because depending on which options council chooses will determine which NOHFC funding stream will apply to. and that impacts the share and so on and so forth. So I'll ask staff to kind of walk council through that, what that means in terms of various options. And then council will have a bit better of an idea of what the options are. And then we will seek council's direction on how you'd like to proceed. Thanks.
Okay, sorry, this is gonna be a little bit complicated. So there are two options basically from NOHFC. The Rural Enhancement Fund will cover up to 75% of costs to a maximum of $500,000. And it would be suitable and the only choice if we're only going to do part of the project, such as the landscaping. If we are going to do the entire project, including the lookout and things like the seating area, those would be enhancements that we could build a business case around to say that this is an economic development project, that we're going to be attracting more patrons to the site. And we would then be able to position that under the Enhance Your Community stream, which is eligible for 50% cost share, but up to $2 million. That one needs to show that there's economic development impact from the work that we're doing. Okay, so we have two options where under the rural enhancement stream, if we were going to do that reduced scope of the project for the signage, the landscaping, and professional fees, then we're looking at a project total of just over $1 million. And that would have the NOHFC contribution max of $500,000 and the municipal contribution of $587,000. The second option to look at the entire project would be including the lookout, which is estimated at $870,000, the signage, the seating area, which is estimated at $80,000. That would be a seating area for both hotel guests, if there is going to be a hotel constructed in the plaza, as well as employees of any of the establishments to have somewhere to sit, to have their lunch. All of the landscaping as well, and the professional fees, which would bring us to just under $2.5 million. So NOHFC's contribution would be half, making the municipalities $1,243,500. There is one further complexity to this, and that is that the professional fees for HTFC planning and design are required for us to actually assess the actual costs of this project. So these are estimated budget costs, and we can't get to the actual costs until HTFC actually designs each of the elements and then starts to work with contractors and experts in order to finalize the costs. So what we would be doing is having their work in two phases. So we would apply for the phase one to NOHFC with our estimates here. We would have HTFC complete the work. We would get back the estimate from their first assessment. Then we would come back to you with the phase two application with more accurate costs, update the budget accordingly, proceed with phase two, and none of the actual development work would happen until we had that funding decision from phase two. But tonight we would be asking for approval to proceed with HTFC to begin that work so that we can assess the actual costs of the project.
One last note on that is if council chooses an option with fewer amenities, it's important to note that this is our last thing we can for funding for this project for Hillcrest. So if we don't do the boardwalk, the picnic, the seating area, and the lookout now, we will never be able to access funds to do that in the future. So just to be aware of that NOHFC will not entertain a third application for this project. So just to talk that away.
Council, questions? Councilor Cassidy.
The timing of this, I know we're marketing the lots obviously right now, and there's still a bit of an unknown what will actually go in some of these lots. And we're planning for what we think might be there, but we actually don't know if what we could invest in is actually going to fit the need of who potentially could be building there. So I guess my question is does this application need to go in right now? Or can we have a little more time to try and move some of the lots to actually understand what the client base will be there?
You, Mayor Lawrence, the phase one application is estimated to take 2 to 3 months to have verification of whether or not the project is eligible. And we think it's important that we are able to move to the phase 2 stage of this project during the winter when contractors are slower. And this would take us probably until next spring, so that it would take about a year before we would know what we were doing, so that we could have a plan in place for next year to proceed if that's what we're doing. So it is important that we start now if this is something that we want to have in place next year. And we're in a bit of a catch-22 situation because the answers to this are very important for our potential investors. The site is not attractive right now. There are areas that we have to improve. We need to do some landscaping. It's very barren. It's not inviting right now for investment. So we have the design already that you have all seen that HTFC has done. And that's what most of our investors have seen. I don't think there's any that it doesn't work for. It doesn't really matter what type of business we're going to have there. They all are going to require, they're all going to have employees regardless that have a lunch break and things like that. And the Lookout is something that will attract patrons to that area regardless, that will also use the businesses. You could go for a coffee, you could go through a drive-through and then go take a walk along the boardwalk. It was designed to be an element to allow us to reclaim some value from the wetlands that we can't develop. So that's a way to enjoy the beautiful natural surroundings that we otherwise can't recoup any value from. And I think that should complement any of the businesses, at least any of those potential investors we've spoken to so far have been quite pleased with those designs, but we haven't been able to give a commitment of how much or when any of that will be implemented.
Councilor Dawson.
I think the question Joe was asking, like, is there any harm? Can we apply next year? Like, can we push it? Is it possible to push it? Are we allowed to?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, there's no deadline with NOHFC. It's continual intake. If we push to next year, it just we will not be able to use it to entice attraction to the site. And we will be 1 year further behind in doing the final touches on the landscaping that will be required for those that will be developing starting this year.
But right, presently, we only have a few lots sold and no one is starting construction until next year. And let's say that they take 2 years to build their buildings minimum. So we're still looking at 2027 before there's employees there. So by us pushing it a year, we would still meet that deadline. When the employees arrive, we would still be able to meet that deadline. Is that not correct?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, that is correct. One of the big items that individuals and customers are asking the municipality right now is signage. How is the municipality going to indicate that their business is up on, let's say, the top half of the property? And right now, we don't have an answer to give because we're not quite there yet. Now is the time where we're here, we're having the conversation with council to find out what exactly council wants. I understand that construction won't be fully completed and everything else, but also showing a piece of land that is beautiful in the end, while buildings are going up, will be easier for us to sell as well.
As far as the cost of the Lookout, you only have to look southwest. You have the tourist information center with walkways and lake and picnic areas. A lot of people, since we've improved the town beach, they'll grab a lunch and they just go down there and have lunch. So I just can't. I mean, a nice green open space with a couple benches, but $870,000. I can't, I wouldn't be able to look for that.
Councilor Van Breda.
Yeah, I do wanna echo that as well. Yeah, I mean, I do like the boardwalk, I do like the existing wetland. Like, my concern is that it needs to be brightly lit, it needs to ensure that it is safe. And my concern is that, you know, there's gonna be garbage, there's gonna be littering, there's gonna be people hanging out, you know, after hours and everything. That's just my concern, right? And you know, I have, you know, going back to this, I have safety fears, I have fears about, you know, it's not brightly lit, I feel like things gonna happen, you know, just. Yeah, I also, it's like expectation versus reality, I can't see it being used as what it is, so yeah, I find that most tourists go on the Abram walkway, right, the paved. You know, but most people go to the TIC, most people go to, you know, the town beach. I don't know, I just want to spend 1.2 million and then it's like.
So, staff, what, my proposal might be to council that, if council directed staff that, to go with option one, but only committed to, I guess, once you go to option one, I think if we make that commitment, we're going that far, then you know what you can sell to the developers and investors. But at some stage, you need to apply for the funding, and the fees, the design fees would be included in the funding allocation.
Through Mayor Lawrence, if the funding is successful, if the funding application is successful, yes, those fees would be eligible for the portion that the funding covers. That's correct.
This is a political question, perhaps you know the answer. Does NOHFC, if an election is called, does NOHFC pause?
I believe so. I believe once the written is drawn, no decisions are made.
Okay. So I'm just thinking, reading council and thinking, option one, make that commitment, and then what would the next step be? From staff's point of view.
So through Mayor Lawrence, essentially then what we'll be looking at is option one as we've sort of envisioned it as we've been talking it through, would be the signage, the landscaping and the professional fees. And the municipality's contribution at this stage, looking at those rough numbers, would be 587,000. So we would ask council to authorize a phase one application at NOHFC, but also to commit to hiring HDFC Planning and Design to undertake the design work. If the funding application is, so they'll undertake the design work, which will refine those numbers for the phase two application. So, you know, instead of 300,000, maybe it'll be 250 for the signage. Instead of $1 million for landscaping, maybe it'll be 900. We don't know until those numbers are finalized. Then we would submit phase two application based on those more accurate projections. And then we wait here. The one thing that we would need council's commitment on is to pay for the design costs. If funding isn't successful, we would have to pay for that regardless. So that would be a caveat.
Yeah, this is work we must do at some stage. Council, I'm going to propose then that we direct staff to go ahead with the design work to enable the development of the phase one application. And then it would come back to council once we know about the phase one application. If it's unsuccessful, it's a whole different question. And if it's successful, then we decide based on what the design work and updated cost estimates provide where we go from there. But it's on option one, not option two. Councilor Leger.
So we're just asking for design work on sort of the signage and landscaping?
Yes.
Nothing else?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and that's option one.
And would it still be $237,000 for
I don't believe it will. I would estimate that it would probably be maybe half that amount.
Council Cassidy.
I appreciate the comments around this, but I also like some of this stuff I look at, I don't need. I think there's enough qualified individuals in town that can put up a gazebo off the side, that can slap some boards together and make a little boardwalk over some wet areas for some of these other things that we can look at. That isn't gonna be an $870,000 touch. I don't know, Councillor Timpson, what did the pavilion at Cedar Bay cost? I just, that would meet what we need, and it would fit the bill. Provide a place to go have lunch, you can have a picnic, you can see, you can do that, but it's not 870,000. I think there's opportunity to do some of this, but I think we have to maybe look at going another route as opposed to the design fees, and then maybe just make it something simpler and dial it back and look at that. Do we need a boardwalk the whole way? Well, no, let's just do the wet spots or like the problem areas. Do we put a small gazebo and then we can add to it over time? But I think if we want to send a message to our developers too, that this isn't, we're just not going to do, like, I think the landscaping and that stuff is important too, but I think there's other things that we want to say that we want to look into on this. So I think that we should consider. And I know we're tight, I think, for time if you guys want to get this in. But I'd be willing to do phase one, but I'd like to see something else come back on how we could potentially integrate a picnic area. Can we integrate that into the landscaping? Like and buy some picnic tables? Like, I don't know that we have to mulch and have a whole separate area, but we could integrate that into the landscaping, the lookout. Well, let's look at a trail or something that's maybe just something that maybe we do with nat tax, or I know with some of our maintenance fees and upkeep fees that we're hoping to charge once this is there, maybe some of the maintenance and some of that development, if there's cost overruns, can support that development. That isn't up to 870,000. But am I making sense or?
Yeah, through you, Sure.
So, sorry, would you envision a design being done?
I would say move forward with option one, because I think those are the essentials, those are things we need to be done, but I think we should commit to looking at ways to integrate the other things at a lower price point, potentially, maybe not as part of the funding application and the dollar amount, because if we commit to this lookout area of 870 and everything with option two, like we're up to 1.2 million is our contribution, which is crazy considering the investment we've already made here. So I think we should look to improve the site, but in another means that is done at a much lower cost.
So go ahead with option one, but look at other improvements that could be done.
In lining with option two, yeah.
In terms of design, I think we're going to need some, in order to make an application for funding, we will need a design that can be tendered and whatever, that will be a finite cost on a contract cost. Please.
Yes, through you, Mayor Lawrence, part of HTFC's design or part of their fee proposal is to do those designs for the RFPs so that we can get more accurate costs. So one important note is that they've included everything in these quotes. And they consulted with Q8 and ASCII, who suggested that geotech and engineering support will be needed for the lookout. And that's why the costs are so high there, because it already includes those experts. And that is just because of the design of the site and the wetlands and the marsh areas. And they're just anticipating some tricky challenges that we may need those experts for. But as we get into that work, some of those costs may not be necessary. And we're not going to know until we start doing the designs and having these sites looked at and examined to see if all of those costs are necessary. This is their best estimate of the highest costs that could be needed because of the challenges we're dealing with on that site, because of all the bedrock and the marsh and all of
I
these
think we go with
challenges.
option one, we won't be including the lookout.
If you go with option one, you won't be going with the lookout. So, and then that was another thought that just came to mind. Keep in mind that even if we went with option two, it doesn't necessarily mean that we can't revise the scope of the project before phase two. If what comes back through that exploratory work in phase one requires some change in scope to the project between phase one and phase two, that's something that we could look at as well. But if there's a good chance that we would be eliminating the lookout, that may change the scope so much that we would no longer be eligible for that stream and we could have to start over, would be the risk of that.
Council.
The other counselors are totally opposed to the lookout, like the cost is just exorbitant. And you know, where we started with this project and where we're ending is extreme. So I think we have to pull back where we can. And I would not support a lookout or a picnic area to $280,000.
So, council, staff CIO, can I, for a motion that I could propose that would you, a motion looking at option one, committing to the design and nothing on option two?
Few members, yes, I have an amendment to the resolution. So instead of the council receives the project update cost and further that council gives direction, we'll actually substitute what that direction is. And my draft wording is that council authorizes and directs staff to submit a phase one application to NOHFC based on option one, the rural enhancement stream involving signage, landscaping and professional fees, with a project total estimate at $1,087,000. And further, that council authorizes and directs staff to engage HTFC planning and design to undertake the design work and commits to funding this work regardless of the grant application outcome.
Council, can I'll ask for a mover and then we get.
Where did you get $1,000,000?
So that's based on 300,000 for the signage, 1 million for landscaping, and 137,000 for professional fees.
Councilor Timpson.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit concerned about, thought of us trying to do second phase on our own. We saw that with the Sioux Road where we tried to do it on our own and it's a total failure. I don't want us to close the door on the lookout and the boardwalk and the picnic area. And I'm just wondering if there's an option in which we can, that will be kept open. We go with the assessments, we go with the feasibility study, the costs. So we can just keep that open. You mentioned something about the funding regulations could limit what we do.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, if we proceed with option two, that is the only way that we would be proceeding with the design work for all of the elements so that we can get a more accurate cost of all of the elements and have designs for all of the elements.
Could you repeat what option two was again?
Option two would be to apply through the Enhance Your Community stream for the entire project, which would still mean that for the first stage of the project, we would just be contracting HTFC to design all of the elements and give us a more accurate cost for all of the elements. And then we would still be coming back for a phase two and seeking guidance for how to proceed with phase two of the project once we had a finalized budget. And one other note is as well that the seating area also includes some play elements in a play area. It's not just a picnic area, if that helps to clarify why the cost is what it is.
So wouldn't option two then basis be practical to take?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, both options are in two phases. One of them includes the entire project. One of them only includes the landscaping and signage.
Once you go with the phase two, the option two application to NHFC, you're committed to fund that. Because they're going to fund that application, is that correct?
Once we get, to you, Mayor Lawrence, yes, once we get to phase two, if we proceed, if phase one is deemed eligible, we get to phase two, yes, that's essentially where the rubber hits the road, that's where the hard commitments come in from council.
But even applying for it, including it in the application, increases the cost.
If we apply for it in phase one, yes, because we're now designing for a full project, not just two elements of the project, that's correct.
Which involves the geotechnical, a lot of work that you might not make use of if you decide not to go ahead with that.
Correct.
So I'm gonna ask, put it on, ask for a mover, or if you tell me if I can move it to put option one on the table as you described. Yep, so is there a mover for that option that Councillor CIO McKinnon would? For option one, moved by Councillor Lagos, seconded by Councillor Van Breda. Okay, discussion on that motion. Any further discussion on that motion? Councillor Tips?
Basically, you can't apply to both places.
No.
Obviously.
Essentially, what this motion is doing is that's limiting, it's telling us that's what we're applying for, is as described in option one. Excluding the lookout, excluding some of those other site developments.
Which of the options, which of the funds, NMHFC or the enhanced community fund, which is more likely for us to be successful?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, we were actually advised that we have perhaps a greater chance under the rural enhancement. Of course, this is informal advice. We cannot know until we actually submit an application, but I do have a completed application in the system that I did ask for an informal review of. And if it is only landscaping, we were advised that rural enhancement is the only stream that we can apply for. If we are including some of the other attraction elements, we were told we can give it a shot and try the Enhance Your Community stream. But we are disadvantaged because we have already received NOHFC funding for this project, and funding is so competitive now post-COVID that they are no longer funding the same project multiple times. We have a case to be made because of all of the different extraordinary factors we have surrounding the Hillcrest project, that they feel that we have a case that it's worth trying. But they think that our better chance would be for the rural enhancement stream. It is a lower ask, so option one.
Councillor Van Breda.
So let's say if there is, which there might be an election fall, does that push us back? Like if the rate is dropped, usually that's 1 or 2 months, and then we're behind 2 months. Or three months if there's change and whatever.
Perhaps, I'm sorry I brought that up, but it was more that I can only speculate on that.
Yeah, now, sorry.
CIO.
Yeah, so through you, Mayor Lawrence, yes, if there is an election, you can expect a minimum of 6 months delay.
6 months.
Process, based on our past experience of when elections have been called and how long it has resulted in delays in funding applications.
So we get ours in stream, it's sooner is better, I would think.
Yeah.
Further discussion on the motion that's on the floor. Councillor Bowman.
Could I just get clarification again on the number, if we go for option one, signage, landscaping, how much professional fees, it seems like we have to go through the. So what's that dollar figure after if we get the funding, the grant funding, 587?
So yes, so through you, Mayor Lawrence, based on the estimate cost right now, the total project cost would be $1,087,000, and the HSC's contribution would be $500,000, and the municipality's contribution would be $587,000. Yes.
Further questions, council? Council Thompson.
And we would be putting that to long-term debt. So, right?
That's correct.
No further questions, then I will call the motion. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, staff. 2.3. That council authorizes the passing of bylaw, the council awards the contract for the Front Street and Third Avenue AJ Positano paving. Also, so OA, I'll put O/A. Operating, thank you, I do remember that. Operating as Duval Developments Limited in the amount of $274,478.11 plus HST. And further, the council authorizes the passing of bylaw number 67-24, being a bylaw to authorize and direct mayor and the clerk to execute a contract between the corporation of the municipality of Sioux and AJ Positano paving, operating as Duval Developments Limited for the Front Street and Third Avenue asphalt overlay project. Moved by Councilor Legos, seconded by Councilor Timpson. Discussion starting with Councilor Timpson.
Just had a question, why is it not going already from First Avenue, it's just stopping at Second?
Senior Lawrence, you're talking about Front Street?
Yes.
Yeah, so the current project that we're working on is going from Fourth Avenue to Second Avenue. And so what's being proposed for the overlay would go from Sixth Avenue to Fourth Avenue. So you would have all new pavement from Sixth Avenue all the way down to Second Avenue on Front Street.
Yeah, that's where the, what about the, everything nice stops at Second Avenue, Second and First?
So you know, it's because of the ongoing issues that we have there with respect to the type of land, the issues that we have with water and sewer lines, that block is going to require a lot more intensive work that was not. So the project we're working on right now is Front to Third, which is Fourth to Second, and Third Avenue from King to Front. And the overlay project is a separate project, obviously. And that's being recommended for Sixth to Fourth, and then on Third as well, for where we had it last time and going up to Second.
That answer your question, Councilor Timpson?
Yeah.
Any further questions on this, Councilor Boone?
Just as far as the asphalt itself, do they have to cut the existing asphalt out, or are they just gonna put an asphalt right on top of it?
Yeah, so this particular technique involves just applying an additional layer to of asphalt. It's not removing the current asphalt.
And how would that affect the curves? Did you have elevation and?
So it worked quite well on Third Avenue when we did it last year, and it's holding up quite well. There weren't any issues with respect to the complementary infrastructure there. So we anticipate it to be the same. There may be some service removal, but it certainly would be a full day.
Okay, I'm aware of that short batch you're talking about on the Third Avenue.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so it essentially would be that. Okay.
Any further questions, Council? The motion's on the floor, all in favor? Carried, thank you. 7.4, the council authorizes staff to develop a boat launch working group to develop a 5- and 10-year capital plan for the municipal access points, boat launches, and to present the plan to council for review and approval by February 2025. And further, the council confirms its intention to make an annual contribution to ongoing maintenance and capital improvements to the municipal access points from the municipal accommodation tax MAC revenues, the amount of which will be determined and confirmed by council upon review of the proposed 5- and 10-year maintenance and capital plan. Mover, please. Councilor Van Breda, seconded by Councilor Bowen. Discussion starting with Councilor Van Breda.
Thank you. So I just want to say first, I don't want to vote. So obviously, going to this, I'm still going in somewhat blind. But I've been talking to a few people since this first came up a few months ago. So yes, I'm in favor of the working group to develop a plan for the boat launches, which I hope will also include the Sioux Hudson Tourism Association, because I feel like they have to be almost like the key to this. You know, they're the ones who are using the boat launches, there's the ones who's gonna be impacted by if there is a, the 1.4, sorry, MAT tax, applied onto it. However, I think the timing about this is smack dab in the middle of tourism season, right? Like, I think we should have this conversation maybe after the season is done. I just feel like, having this July, the Blue Grape Festival is right around the corner, it's probably the busiest time of the town. I feel like we need to have this conversation September, October, November. And then, have them, have a meeting with the Sioux Tourism Association. We got, or at least I got this on Monday. We haven't had any 48 hours to even go through this and really digest. And I don't want to be steamrolled into making a decision here tonight. Sorry, read my notes. Also, I got this from the TIC, a map of all the boat launches. I'll say it again, I'll say it first, and I'll say it again. We don't need 9 boat launches. We do not need 9 boat launches. Quality over quantity. And again, speaking to
Council Van Buren, we're not discussing the actual plan right now. That's what this is all about. So that's not, what we're doing is what council has asked staff to do, is to get a working group going in time so that we didn't land-based staff for being late as last year. So by doing this tonight, it's not steamer, it's doing what council asked so that we can be ready as fall approaches and have it complete towards the end of fall, whatever the date is here that you're proposing to February, to bring it back and have that approved. We're not deciding the plan or how many boat launches. That's what this working group is for.
So then, my question too is, can we, again, this is smack dab middle of tourism season, right?
You're saying that, but we're authorizing staff to do what we asked them to do, get this going early enough to do it. So I think that they're doing exactly what we've asked. It's not necessarily, they'll work out the best time to meet with the working group.
And this is not a dig on the staff. But that's straightforward there. There's not a dig, but we just got these on Monday. We haven't had 48 hours to really digest this yet.
We digested a lot.
Yes.
We need to digest the 4-page report. Seriously.
So tonight, we're just deciding on the concept of having a working committee. Like, there's a lot of discussion in this. Which I'm not sure what the purpose of the discussion is, because the committee would have the discussion, the working committee. Is that not correct?
Yes. So 2 purposes to this report. One is to clarify for council that the option that had been discussed earlier about imposing a second municipal accommodation tax of 1.5% is not an option legally. That's not something we can do. We've done the research, we've determined this. So since that isn't an option, we're suggesting that we put this working group together to look at what we need to do in terms of developing a 5 to 10 year maintenance and capital plan. And we would seek input from the various stakeholders, including the Sioux Tourist Association, including other outfitters that are a part of that, because that association only represents about a third of all the outfitters. We would be discussing with the MNR because some of our maintenance and capital improvements would be in water, so we need guidance from them on when we can and what times a year and all that type of thing. As well as consultation with members of the public, the locals who use boat launches and so on. So that's essentially what we're trying to do is for council to say, yes, we approve of this process, that staff creates a committee and consults with the various stakeholders, and over the coming months that not every stakeholder is going to attend every meeting, that we will have those one-on-one sessions and those conversations, and then staff will gather all that information, and then the goal is to bring a proposal to council for consideration as in January or February.
And you said that imposing a MAT tax on the tourist outfitters is not legal. So why would it not be legal?
Because we already have a 4% municipal accommodation tax, you're not allowed to have 2.
Oh, you're not to 2.
No,
so
we're not allowed to have 2.
Still without 2. So we could incorporate the tourist outfitters into the 4% tax if we chose to.
That is an option, and staff isn't recommending it because when we did the analysis, many of the local outfitters, their actual physical camps aren't within municipal boundaries, so we can't charge mat tax on all those rooms.
But we would still be able to charge them the 10 tourist camps that are within the municipality, just not to their outposts.
Right, so we can only charge for accommodations that are within municipal boundaries,
Right,
yes.
which still would be substantial money.
And in the past, the reason that wasn't done the first time around is because the tourist outfitters and council today agreed that would create an unfair burden, so that they're having to compete even more with competitors in the region who don't have to pay these taxes. Was their position, and that's what council today decided. However, you're absolutely right, Councilor Costco. If council wishes, it can extend the 4% municipal accommodation tax to the outfitters, if that's what council wishes to do, absolutely.
So
That's not on the table tonight.
no, but I'm just clarifying that point.
Yes.
That it was illegal.
Illegal to have two
Yeah,
different
yeah,
things.
Yeah, so I just want to clarify.
Yeah.
That there is a different path.
Yes.
So, my other question is, so you also put in here that some of the funds may come from the existing mat tax, but that would be up to the working committee and then council. That is not, if we vote for this today, that is not what's happening.
That's correct. This is just saying that this is one of the options that will likely be bringing back to you. We just want council to acknowledge that that's one of the options. What that contribution is going to look like is really going to depend on what the 5 and 10-year capital plan looks like in terms of what resources are needed to implement it. And even if council agrees with this, we can bring you a 5 and 10-year capital plan that you may say, no, maybe that should be a 15 and 20-year capital plan, not 5 and 10 years, if you choose to take a longer period of time to implement. So really, this is just about trying to make council as aware as possible of what some of the options might look like and what some of the constraints are, but also not tying council's hands to anything other than granting staff the authority to proceed to develop this staff working group and then to consult with all the stakeholders.
So, and when you use the word working group, that is different than a committee. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
Can you clarify how that?
Absolutely. So a working group will consist of staff. A committee normally has council representation, and so that's not the intent here.
And a working group can do much more work than a committee.
Yeah, so a working group essentially by line and meeting notice requirements and all those types of things. It's much more free.
Free to do the work.
Yes.
Right. I just want to clarify that because these come across.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just under recommendations, the second that council confirms its intention to make an annual contribution. So we would be voting on that. That we would.
Right, but we're not saying what that contribution is. We could bring thing back in February when we say, yeah, we will contribute $100 a year in municipal accommodation tax fund. That's entirely up to council what that contribution looks like. The reason we're putting this in here is because we know already that there is a very small, if any, appetite to increasing boat launch fees to the extent that we would need to be able to implement the type of 5 and 10-year capital plan that's going to be required to meet the expectations of the community. So we already, as staff, not that we presume to know what council will do, but we are feeling fairly confident that there's not going to be an appetite, say, to raise the annual fee from 75 to say 250. So if there isn't an appetite for that, then revenues are going to have to come from another source. The best way to lock that in, if you will, is if you do it through a commitment like this, where so much money will come from the municipal share of the municipal accommodation tax to help fund these this 5 and 10-year capital plan. That's essentially what we're trying to get at. But ultimately, it's entirely up to council. As I said, you may choose to contribute $5 from municipal accommodation tax. That's up to council.
And I also think it would be prudent to have someone from the MAT committee on this working group as well. You never know what they would be able to help out as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to Councillor Van Breed, one of your points initially was the number of boat launches. Will the working group consider either Do we need 9? Is it 7? If we need 9, perhaps we only maintain 6, 7, or we maintain all 9 and add a 10. Is that under?
You may want to say, so the 5 and 10-year capital plan will address which boat launches will receive
Priority.
what level of attention. We had talked earlier, there was some brainstorming earlier this year about there being a tiered approach to maintenance at the boat launches, so that may be one of the recommendations. Right now, the municipality is not in the position where it can walk away from any of the boat launches, without first having to go through negotiations with MNRF because of the agreement we entered into back in 2004. So we can't at this point walk away from any. Not that we couldn't in the future. I think that may be a challenging conversation, but we will investigate that as part of this process.
Good. Anything further, Council? Councillor?
I'm apprehensive of putting in that the money's gonna come from the mat tax. I know you're saying that we could give $100, but it's gonna come back to say, this is what council wanted. And I'm not sure that that's what we want, and we haven't heard from the committee yet. So I would like the working committee to do some investigating to figure things out before we commit to how we're paying. I don't want that in there, because I find that we say these things.
So you're up,
Somehow
the motion's on the table, so this would be,
Yeah.
this is you're proposing an amendment.
To
Yeah.
So then council confirms its intention to make an annual contribution to ongoing maintenance capital funds from the net tax. The amount to be determined and confirmed by council upon review. Okay, so could you take us through the friendly amendment process?
So essentially, Mayor Lawrence, the motion would stop at February 2025, the end further would be deleted.
And further would be deleted, got your plans. Before we, I guess, the council. Staff comments on this amendment?
To you, Mayor Lawrence, the reason staff is made the suggestion in the first place is because what our experience has been over a couple of decades is the only alternative to this coming from municipal accommodation tax, the municipality share of the municipal accommodation tax, is that it comes from the tax base. And it's difficult to have consistent commitment to a multi-year plan of this nature when it has to be approved as part of the budget every single year. It's often one of the things that gets cut, and with the utmost respect for every previous council, it's one of the reasons the boat launches are in the state they are, because every year difficult decisions have to be made, and those decisions are made, and these are the types of projects that get cut, and the longer they're cut, the worse the condition, and now we find ourselves in the condition that we are today.
But in here, it says who's involved in the hospitality tax. And I know that the tourist outfitters have been very public that they aren't pleased with the boat launches, that they aren't up to the standards that they want change. But I also believe if they want change, they may need to participate in the mat tax. So I don't want this written in here and then it come back to say this is what council agreed to, because we're not necessarily agreeing to this. I want other options on the table where the tourist outfitters can be a key person, a group involved in the boat launches, how they go, how they play out, what the capital expenses are, but in turn, they may need to participate in that tax to get what they want. I want that option to be open, and I don't want it defined in here right now.
Good. I have no problem with keeping it in and I'll put it to the vote. And all those things that you're talking about, I think can be part of the process. I think the municipal portion of the municipal accommodation tax can be used for whatever we decide. And certainly boat launches is what many of the people who visit our community come from. So that needs, and it doesn't define the amount. So, but it takes through the process of the friendly amendment changing this resolution.
Or
it might be unfriendly because it slashed the whole.
In this case, it's The amendment, the amendment we will consider friendly because it's not, in this case, then, for the friendly amendment to work, the mover would need to agree, and in this case, the mover is Councilor Bentley. So through you, Mayor Lawrence, the motion has then been amended, and now, reads that council authorized staff to develop a boat launch working group to develop a 5 and 10 year capital, means and capital plan for municipal boat launches, municipal access points, boat launches, and to present the plan to council for review and approval by February 2025.
No comments? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. 7.5. The council authorizes the passage. Maybe we should take, it's for, how many more do we have here? 4 more. Oh, my goodness. How about a 5-minute break here, council? I need to get a glass of water for that. 5-minute break. Thank you. Five. The council authorizes the passing of bylaw number 63-24, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into and execute the municipal funding agreement for the Canada Community Building Fund between the Corporation of the Municipality of Silicote and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO, and further that the 2024 to 2028 Canada Community Building Fund be allocated to the Federal Gas Tax Reserve Fund and utilized as per the annual capital budget and financing strategy approved by council. Moved by Councilor Timpson, seconded by Councilor Lego, and discussion starting with Councilor Timpson.
I just have one clarification. This is just the federal gas tax renamed, is it not? And does the revenue still come from gas tax? Okay, that's all I was. Clear. Yeah.
And do we use it for road improvement?
Through Mayor Lawrence, traditionally, we have allocated it all to road improvements. More recently, we've been allocating some of it to other types of capital projects that don't have any other funding sources available to reduce the amount of long-term debt we need to borrow.
So we don't have, like, it's just been a practice, or is it a policy that it goes to road improvement, just a practice?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, usually what happens is during the budget process, we'll allocate the federal gas tax, the Canadian Community Building Fund to areas where we currently don't get other funding to support that project. And most of the time it's for roads improvements, small ones like Moosehorn Drive we used, and other areas that then we don't have to take on long-term debt that would come from taxation for it. Nor would we have those funds in the current reserve in order to support those projects. So this is usually how we do it, but we usually give a couple of different options to council at the time if there are different options for discussion and everything else. Sometimes in the past, we have used it for recreation purposes. We've used it for sidewalks. We've used it to improvement on storms. So it's been a wide variety depending on what the need is that year.
For boat launches?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, unfortunately, no.
Sir Van Breathen.
Now that the province took off the PSD from gas, there's no provincial, what's the word? There's no provincial one, right? There's a federal gas, there's no provincial one, right? Or what's going on with the province?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I'm not entirely sure. That doesn't have any bearing on this funding.
No, it's just, I'm just thinking of if this is something just, we don't, yeah.
Part of the motion.
That's just follow that for the folks ahead.
It's kind of like me bringing up the possibility of an election. It's just it's not relevant.
Something.
Hey, Councilor Bone.
Gathered in the report, there's a list of eligible things and almost quarter short sea shipping. Construction material and that's a renewal. There are definitely, it says sports infrastructure, tourism infrastructure, wastewater, broadband, internet. Interesting.
To you, Mayor Lawrence, so yes, typically, because, one of the highest and greatest needs, certainly one of the areas that we hear the most about, is the roads. That's why typically the funds are allocated to road improvements. Yeah.
And, sorry, Councillor Costa, go ahead.
I'm definitely in favor of that. And I-
Yeah, is this the overlay project that's being funded through this, right?
Yes.
And all I have to say about the overlay project is yippee. That, you know, that in itself is just the physical appearance. Well, just upgrade. Good. Anything further? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. The council receives the 2024 municipal operating budget to actual update as outlined in the treasurer's report, July 17, 2024. First quarter update. Moved by Mover, Councillor Van Breda, seconded by Councillor Bowen. Discussion starting with Councillor Costa.
I think
Well, I don't know, that's, I have to put, I can't put JC because that's, it could be, it was,
no,
I put,
okay.
did you lift it? No.
Now, I don't know that I read it in your working notes or in the other notes, but it sort of led me to believe that our accommodation tax is going to be larger than we anticipated. Is that correct?
The working notes aren't on the agenda.
I know, but we got.
They were already,
Yeah,
not on the agenda.
but is the hospitality tax or the accommodation tax going to be anticipated to be larger than we expected?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, no.
No.
The anticipated amount is expected to be approximately the same as last year.
Item wasn't lifted and wasn't on the agenda. That's a discussion. We can't anything further on that item. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. 7.7, the council receives the treasurer's report titled Electronic Fund Transfer Policy, EFT, and further that council authorizes passing the bylaw number 66-24 being a bylaw to adopt municipal policy number 5-4 being an electronic fund transfer policy for the corporation of the municipality of Sioux County. A mover. Councillor Timpson, seconded by Councillor Cassidy, and discussion starting with Councillor Timpson.
Yeah, I was really quite, I was kind of confused about this policy. Is it, we're talking about electronic transfers, of course, for money coming in or money going out? How is it, and what about, you mentioned payroll, what, isn't that done by direct deposit? Just trying to a little bit confused about it.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, the intent of the policy is to cover both areas. Right now, we currently don't have a policy in regards to EFT for payroll. So this would be covered under here in regards to automatically transferring payroll to staff's bank account. That's why it's in this policy. The policy is specifically in regards to accounts payable, us paying invoices to other companies for that come in, so that we would automatically transfer those funds if those companies choose to, for it to automatically be deposited in their bank account. And then at the same time, an email with a remittance would be sent to the company.
So is there a limit on the amount that you can transfer? I know for personal accounts is $3,000 a day or something.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, not for the municipality, no.
No.
There's certain approvals that go into play so that not one individual can transfer those funds. It has to be signed off by two individuals within the software itself. So you can't just
Like I wouldn't be able to go into the system and automatically transfer funds to another company. There'd be another individual, most likely the CAO, that would currently have to sign off with the documentation provided as well.
Then there was an issue there, something about in emergency only, she would do this, but it sounds like this is, you want it to be a ongoing process, but I just found it, somehow the wording was just confusing about what the whole thing was about. I knew it was wondering.
CAO.
So through your reports, yes. So what we're finding with a lot of our vendors, not all banking is, basically this comes down to not all banking institutions are accepting our checks anymore. They want us to be using some type of magnetic ink, and to do so would be very cost prohibitive for us to go down that road. So this is a way to ensure we're still able to pay our vendors. All the same checks and balances that are in place now with respect to physical checks and signatures and approvals, that would all continue to be in place with this. Currently, I mean, we've been doing direct deposit for a long time. We've never had a policy. So this again enshrines what we're doing in policy and ensures that the steps are being taken, that they're all being followed, that every employee is being dealt with the same way. So again, this is about two things. One, saving costs on having to avoid buying a very expensive printing system for checks, to streamline some of our payment process, to save money on postage. There's a lot of benefits to making the switch. Yeah.
Yeah, no qualms with that. It's just that how it was presented here, maybe you need to have two sections, one on electronic transfers and one on direct deposits and who it's for and who it's not for, because it just seemed to be shifting when I read that, when I read it, it just seemed to shift around. I don't know if anybody else felt that way, but and wondering, is it for you receiving money or you giving money and both?
Councilor Wong.
It's been answered.
Councilor Boswell.
This is the way of the future, like everyone's doing this, like you're just basically catching up by doing this. So, I mean, it's
It's just that I just found the writing not clear.
yeah.
Councilor Cassidy.
I think just one thing we need to be cognizant of, and I'm sure Treasurer will, but I've heard of other municipalities that have been paid through this and other things like money's been intercepted, and there's a lot of fraud out there with this too, where well, it doesn't exist with checks, so just something we need to be very cautious of, either follow-up phone calls or ensuring money where it's supposed to.
Gail.
Chief Mayor's my observation of some of those stories and some of those instances that Councillor Cassidy referred to is some of that was a direct result of insufficient controls on municipalities end, whereby one person could authorize expenditures of $500,000 at a time. I know that was the case in Ottawa. So thankfully, our internal controls are much stronger, and any such transfers we made not through our system, but through our bank as well. So just to reassure you on that.
So just a practical question, when the finance department, one of the staff, I won't say any names because she's lovely, comes running after me on Friday afternoon as I'm leaving the park lot to say, would you sign this check, which is usually a large check. But just thinking about those checks in general, which obviously that's one of the checks and balances. How will that work with the EFTs?
So through everyone's currently that's done with a physical signature. It'll be done now through an electronic means whereby either the treasurer or I will be with you as you log into your computer and go to our bank online and walk through the process of making those improvements.
So it'll be done during working hours?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
it won't be good. But what we're doing perhaps is saving Wendy from running after me in the apartment. Good, thank you. Any further questions on the EFT policy? All in favor? Carried.
Sorry, one last note on this. One thing I did want to clarify, just for any members of the public who may be watching as well. This is for EFTs, electronic funds transfers. This is not enabling the municipality to accept EMTs, which are email money transfers. We have had those requests in the past, and that is not something that we are in a position to be able to do. We have looked around, looked at other municipalities, the paperwork that's involved, the opportunity for error is incredible. So yeah, I just want to clarify, this is not EMTs, these are EMTs.
That confuses it even more, because that's what I thought we were talking about.
I'm gonna say,
Money.
before the confusion deepens, I'm gonna say the issue has been dealt with.
I'll tell you what, I'll tell you what. So. Send me a transfer.
So last item requiring separate discussion, item 7.9, got that correct? And we have an amendment to the procedure bylaw to provide for hybrid meetings. Whereas council determines the calling place and proceedings of council meetings via its procedure bylaw. And whereas council adopted bylaw number 09-20 being a bylaw governing the calling place and proceedings of meetings of council and council appointed boards, commissions and committees on November 18th, 2020. And whereas council has previously considered the implementation of procedures to enable certain members of council to participate in meetings virtually and others participate in person, i.e. hybrid meetings. And whereas council previously decided on March 15th, 2023, via resolution number CL 075-2023 to retain the status quo respecting the method of holding council meetings, the attached, and whereas audio-visual equipment upgrades have been undertaken in council chambers to enable hybrid meetings, thereby removing the previous cost barrier to the implementation of such a meeting method. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Sioux Lookout directs staff to draft revisions to its procedure bylaw to add the hybrid meeting method, which would have the effect of enabling some members to participate electronically and some members to participate in person simultaneously, and will provide the same option for council appointed boards, commissions, and committees. And be it further resolved, the council directs the clerk to develop for council's consideration procedures respecting hybrid meeting participation. Mover. Councillor Costco, seconded by Councillor Timpson. Discussion starting with Councillor Cassidy.
Yeah, I looked at this because I still believe that we should retain the status quo. Respecting these, I think council should be an in-person meeting and we should all make that effort. I know I do. And just because we do technology, I think doesn't mean we should change how we do meetings, and they should still be done in person.
Councillor Timpson?
I think in person is ideal. However, when we look at the realities of today, if we look at the reality of this town and workforce in this town who do travel as a regular part of their business, unlike many towns, we're not going to get council members on who represent the people. We're going to get retired people, semi-retired, or business people, and very few working people. It's unusual. We have two persons here who are actually a job. Yeah. No, but you're a business person. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but you have a boss that you're accountable to, and you are the boss, right? So we have no First Nations people here. We have not, I don't think there's anybody here who travels up north. We are in a technological world. And when I tell people that we can't do this electronically, they kind of look at me and scratch their head. What's wrong with your municipality that everybody's doing it? I know one, and I don't think we should do it because everybody's doing it. But I know there's one municipality that it's all virtual, their meetings. And they have working people who come on their lunch hours and they do meetings. So I think we have to, I think I've missed before this term of council, I think I might have missed 2 meetings in the previous 16 years that I've been in council. And after a while, it just gets to the point where you just cannot do it. And not sacrifice some of your own personal life. And then we look at the committees. We want people from the community who represent the community to be part of this. And if they want to go on holidays and if they want to log in, all power to them if they've got that commitment. And I certainly would if I've had a lot of family issues in the last 3 years that I've had to attend to. I would have been happy to log in to a meeting, but it wasn't possible. So I think we have to look at the realities of the world today. And yes, we have it. Ideally, we should be in person, but in reality, we can't be if we really want to attract people and keep people effective council members. I fully support this. It doesn't have to be. We can have stipulations like, okay, maybe twice a year you can log in. It doesn't have to be all the time or carte blanche.
Okay, thank you. I'll go to Councillor Costa, then Councillor Van Breda, and then Councillor Layton.
I think the really important thing that we have to remember here is this includes the committees. And the reason we brought this forward is because it came from the Truth and Reconciliation Committee. And in our town, like Councillor Timpson has just said, our largest employers are Slifna, Tikanagan, the OPP, the hospital, and those jobs require you to travel. So our Indigenous voices on the Truth and Reconciliation Committee all have to travel for their jobs, and they're missing meetings. And exactly what Joyce said, they would love to just log in, and we have to explain to them, you can't. We have a policy that doesn't allow it. And there's no point of having a Truth and Reconciliation Committee without the Indigenous voices. It's just, it serves no purpose. So if we can't have the Indigenous people there because their jobs require them to travel and they have valuable input that we need, we are missing out as a municipality because we don't want to move with the times. And this town, you think between Tikanagan and Slipknot, that's 3,000 people. So you've just taken 3,000 people out of the opportunity to join committees or council. And I personally went and recruited the people for the Truth and Reconciliation Committee, and they're brilliant people. They're brilliant. They have wonderful things to say. We want to hear what they have to say, but we have to make it a situation where they're able to contribute. Sioux has never attended our Truth and Reconciliation Committees. So we have a policy where our staff cannot drive to Sioux. We're not allowed to meet there because of municipal policies. However, we're expecting them to drive 45 minutes to our meetings, and they could just log in at their desk and participate. And they are someone that we want to hear from them. We want them to participate, but we have to make it so they can participate. We have to make it easy for them. To ask someone to drive to town 45 minutes at the supper hour and drive back, you could potentially be giving up almost 4 hours of your time when you could just log on and just contribute. So we need to make it easy for people to contribute. There's a lot of wonderful people in our community that would love to participate, and it's just a barrier. And I think we need to remove that.
So great. Thank you so much. I co-signed what Councilor Costa and Councilor Timpson said. Definitely in strong agreement on what you just said. I think this is more just about bringing democracy easier to people. That's what this is mainly about. So bringing democracy easier to the people. And definitely, yes, in person triumphs. In person is better, but I'm just more concerned about what if I have to drive my mom to get an MRI in Thunder Bay. My mom has cancer right now. What if I would get her, to the Thunder Bay Health Sciences Center in Thunder Bay, and my dad's busy, or my dad's living in Horn Bay, my mom, or my sister is busy too. So, I'm thinking about myself. It's just obviously my family comes first. So my with my mom, and I have to drive her to Thunder Bay. That's just not a question. and I miss a meeting, you know, it is very hard too. But I was looking at my notes from when we had this meeting last time in March. I think that we can still follow, I think it was the city of Kenora, where you only get, I think it was four per year chances where you could join in through the hybrid. And that was at the discretion of the clerk. So again, if this is more of like a regular council meeting, was just approving things here and there, say to the clerk at the time, hello, you know, I'm gonna be either up north, I'm gonna be traveling to Thunder Bay, I have an appointment, or I have to, even me too, I have to go see my dermatologist in Winnipeg every year because I've had a few more taken off to also potentially cancer as well. So just to say, you know, and then if the clerk says, yeah, it's fine, you can go, or if maybe the clerk says, yeah, Councilor Van Brady, this is a very important budget meeting. I don't feel comfortable you join online, but when you go back to SoCal, you let's meet one afternoon and we can go through it then. Perfect, you know, but it's about giving an option there in case there is an emergency, in case something does arise, that there is an option. I don't think this is a free ride per se, as you know. I'm in my villa in Cuba, I can just join from, you know, I can have a cake and eat it too. But this is more of just, if something does arise, there is an option at the table that, you know, that would drive my mom somewhere, drive myself somewhere, that there is options here.
Councilor Labour.
Yeah, my issue is not so much for the committees. I think there should be hybrid. My issue has always been with counselors and that they should be here in person. I would only vote for this if there's stipulations on the number of times in a year that a counselor can log in and what are they able to do, whether they can vote or just participate and put their opinion in. That would have to be brought back by staff to us. But yeah, that would be, for me, it's all about the counselors, and I don't want it to be abused. Oh, I don't feel like coming in today, I'll just log in. No, I want you here. I want to see your face. I want to see your body language. I want to interact.
Councilor Cassidy.
Yeah, I agree. The committee members, it's never been an issue for me. But I understand the challenges. I've seen committees struggle to get going. That's not the issue. I think the issue is making sure council and people, when they put their name forward, they understand the commitment it is, and it's not something that they can just take quasi seriously. And I know from going through COVID and many meetings, you know, we deal with closed session as well. And I don't think this should apply to closed session. I don't think you should be able to participate in closed session because you don't know who's in the room. You don't know who can hear. That shouldn't be a part of it. But I think it should still be members should be here because that's what we signed up for. We signed up for the commitment. We get a stipend, we get an honorarium to do this and to be here and be available. So that's what we should do. And democracies was around before technology came in. So I don't think democracy is an inhibiting factor here. So.
When it came forward in March of 2023, I had two concerns. First being people attending. Second was the cost. So I have a question. What's changed since March of 2023 when we were given a report of somewhere in the $22,000 range to update equipment and go to hybrid meetings potentially?
Yeah.
Senior Lawrence, the equipment has been updated so that we could better address virtual delegations, presentations, and so on and so forth. So I would say the lion's share of the expenditures have already been incurred. So that's the primary change from then to now.
I also agree with Councilor Wagle, full session, that you never know what's gonna walk in the room. So we definitely have to have some rules and stipulations and Is it 2, is it 3, is it 4? For the year? Thank you.
If you're Council.
I do agree with that a closed session is not only just who's in the room, it's to protect the person. Like you said, it's not a safe, secure space, shouldn't be in a closed meeting. So I do agree with that, and I also do agree with the amount of putting a number on the amount of meetings. And there is value of having everyone here. But I also agree that, like, when Councillor Cassidy, when you weren't here, the dynamics of the group changed and we missed you. So, and there was a topic on the table that wasn't passed because you weren't here. When I felt bad because I know Joe would have voted for that. It's sort of should I be voting for this on his behalf? Should I, so you're sort of conflicted. So everyone here contributes in a certain way. And if they're missing, it changes, it changes the votes, it changes everything. So if you, and people do have stuff in their lives going on, and I don't think you should be penalized because something goes on in your life. You miss a crucial vote that you want to participate in. So I think that there's nothing wrong with having guidelines. I totally agree with that. I have nothing against it.
So are we just asking tonight first? Sorry,
Yep, yes.
staff to bring back.
I was just gonna, for the last, be it further resolved of the resolution is, be it further resolved, the council directs the clerk to develop for council's consideration procedures respecting hybrid meeting participation for council's consideration. So I'm sure CAO is taking some notes tonight about, and there's lots of examples. So it's going to come back as a draft for our consideration. And that's what we're authorizing. And if there's a vote of 4-3 at that time, if there are 7 members present in the room at that time, because it would have to be, that is in favor of adopting it. If not, then, but it's all about, to me, there's many things I'd like perhaps to be the way they used to be. Maybe not, but things change. To me, the devil's in the details, and you talked about some of the details here, and that's, I think it's time, and but the devil will be in the details of the procedures, and that's what's coming for our consideration if we vote in favor of this tonight. It's coming back for our consideration here, and if people aren't satisfied with the details, they can say go for further modification, or just say no, it can't be worked out. And then it'll depend on what council's the majority decision is. I look forward to seeing the details and addressing some of these things you've already come out to the closed meeting. And I don't want to go into the details of it now because that's for the next time. Councilor Boone.
The vote, is it 4 against 3, or it could be unanimous, or is it 2/3 vote?
Mayor Lawrence, on this one, we just require a simple majority because the item had it meets the criteria for reconsidering a matter previously adopted or rescinded. So this one just requires a majority. Majority. Thank you. Not a super majority, just a regular majority. There we go. That's what that's.
If there's no further discussion. Everybody understands the motion that's on the table. Coming back for first. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, staff. And that concludes the items requiring separate discussion. Now we do have before we go into closed session, we still have some bylaws, and we also have outside resolutions. So perhaps you could go ahead with the bylaws. Are you up to that? Thank you.
Mayor Lawrence, so following bylaws are being presented to council for 3 readings and passing. Bylaw number 59-24 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a partnership agreement between the corporation of the township of Pickle Lake and the corporation of the municipality of Sioux pertaining to the Sioux Attachment Board. Bylaw number 63-24 being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into and execute the municipal funding agreement for the Canada Community Building Fund between the corporation of the municipality of Sioux and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. Bylaw number 64-24 being a bylaw to authorize and direct the mayor and clerk to execute agreements and documents regarding the sale of the hereinafter described land by the corporation of municipality of Sioux, Stacy George and Skylar Galetsky. Bylaw number 65-24 being a bylaw to authorize the conveyance of certain hereinafter described land by the corporation of municipality of Sioux to Stacy George and Skylar Galetsky and to direct the mayor and clerk to execute the transfer. Bylaw number 66-24 being the bylaw to adopt municipal policy number 5-4, being an electronic fund transfer policy for the corporation and municipality of Sioux. Bylaw number 67-24 being a bylaw to authorize and direct the mayor and clerk to execute a contract between the corporation and the municipality of Sioux and AJ Positano Paving operating as Developments Limited for the Front Street Third Avenue Asphalt Overlay Project. And the one that was added, bylaw number 61-24 being a bylaw to permanently close, declare surplus and authorize the sale of an unopened road allowance with respect to the property abutting 138 Front Street. So that bylaw numbers 59-24, 61-24, 63-24, 64-24, 65-24, 66-24, and 67-24. Be read a first, second, and third time and passed. Just eight.
Moved by Council Lego, seconded by Council Timpson, all in favor, carried, thank you. Outside motions, resolutions, can we summarize these without having to read the entirety of them?
Because there is no, because it doesn't impact on any potential legal proceedings like it does in the case of statutory public meetings, yes, we can summarize them if you so choose, if that's the will of council.
Council, would that be all right if we summarize them? All right, so I'll go through them one by one. Thank you, CEO Clerk. The AMO-OMA Joint Resolution, Health Resolution Campaign finishes with now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Sillikout urge the province of Ontario to recognize the physician shortage in the municipality of Sillikout and Ontario to fund healthcare appropriately and ensure every Ontarian has access to physician care. And this is a resolution developed by the Association of Municipalities of Ontario with the Ontario Medical Association, a joint resolution. And I sit on the AMO Health Task Force, and I had the opportunity to make some comments at before it was finalized. And the wording in here somewhere is whereas Ontario municipal governments play an integral role in healthcare system through responsibilities in public health, long-term care, paramedicine, and other investments. I asked them to add and other investments because we do more than public health, long-term care, and paramedicine. Physician recruitment being an example, tonight's request being an example, MRI. Previously, we've funded many other things. So I think this is a valuable initiative by AMO and OMA, and we should support it. Do we need a mover to put it on the table? Moved by Councilor Cassidy, seconded by Councilor Vigo. Discussion. Good to go, all in favor, carried. OPP resolution, the municipality of Tweed. So this came to us sometime in the last few weeks. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Sillikout supports the municipality of Tweed call on the Ontario government to immediately implement sustainable funding for small rural municipalities by reabsorbing the cost of the Ontario Provincial Police Force back into provincial budget with no cost recovery to municipalities. How could we not support that? So when it came, I said to the CEO, let's contact this municipality. So I think yesterday I had a video call that CAO was going to take part in it, but he kicked his bottom stair and had to have his foot attended to. He wasn't frustrated with the council, he was frustrated with something else. So I had a video call with Mayor and some of you, Councilor Timpson, you Mayor Don DeGenova, and his partner is actually Dr. Chuck Mustard.
Yes.
Who worked here. They both, and we found out when they worked in Sillikout for 5 or more years. So that was interesting. But he's the Mayor Don. He's the mayor. The CAO was there, and a councillor who is a retired OPP police officer. They are essentially advocating for a position. We've been fighting for 10 years to get to where they are now. $300 per property, and they want to abandon that to get to nothing per property. We're with Lead the Parade, we'll be in behind you. Mover. Councilor Cassidy, seconded by Councilor Van Breda, all in favor? Carried. And the final one is Red Lake Resource Revenue Sharing Resolution. With the final resolution being resolved that the municipality of Sioux supports the Council of the Municipality of Red Lake's petition to the province of Ontario to create a provincial funding model in addition to the NORDS fund, which is set to expire in 2026-27, to provide revenues to all resource-based communities in Northern Ontario that are proportionate to the revenues leaving our region municipality in an effort to offset the additional burdens placed on resource-based communities to provide municipal services to these industries. So I think we should support Red Lake in this because we might be asking them for supporting them. Moved by Councilor Van Breda, seconded by Councilor Timpson. All in favor? Carried. And then we have councilor reports. So councilor reports, and we'll try and be brief and succinct because we have two gentlemen waiting outside for the closed session. Councilor Crossville.
Quickly, I met with the mayor regarding some communication issues and implementation plans. I attended the Truth and Reconciliation committee, and we did set up some working groups in our committee, which allowed us to do, and which was very valuable. And I'm presently working on the education campaign, the pop-up banners. I met with some seniors regarding local issues, and I attended the library event, which was the henna event, which I love, and they're doing great work at the library.
Thank you, Councilor Boone.
I met with the CEO to discuss various topics. I attended 3 fundraising events, Sioux Bombers Golf Tournament, the Legion Golf Tournament, and Home Harbor, which fundraised $13,000 for the MRI. I also checked the progress of the rec center and just happened to be in the area and walked in. Definitely some things going on there. So.
Yeah, and I was away for a couple of weeks, and so I was not able to attend the council meeting. However, I was able to participate in some of my other meetings virtually. And I've had some very good discussions and meetings with Dr. Folk, who is the chair of the physician recruitment Slurpsy. And we have been successful in getting more locum here in the Hugh Allen Clinic. The medical services to the town of Sioux are in real crisis. 66% of the people in town will not have a family doctor in the next few months unless we can recruit more people to come here and live here and stay here. So that is one thing that is I'm spending further time in discussions with the recruitment committee and Dr. Folk and how we're going to participate in this recruitment, and we would like to be meeting with the mayor at some point. We need to be doing everything we can in our power to get physicians here. Without physicians, without family doctors, nobody is going to want to stay here. Even doctors aren't going to stay here. They don't have a doctor for their kids. So you have to keep that in mind. And that's my this one.
Sure. Councilor Van Breda.
Keep it quick as well. Spent National Indigenous Peoples Day in Kenora, where I was there for the 50th anniversary of the National Park protest. Went really well, had a good time. And the next day I joined with Kenora Pride. Attended the June TRC meeting. It was really well. Around 2 working committees, one for the educational banners, one for the Rocks to Action Blueberry Festival event taking place at the Lossett Center in Hudson. Again, everybody's invited and more welcome to come. Spent Canada Day at Koken. The new Hudson Welcome sign should begin this week. I was gonna thank Christine Holy when she was here, but I've been bugging her, literally bugging her for years about this. So it's nice that it's done now. It's done, you know, long time coming, but it's done. Another thing too, just want to point out that I spoke to a resident on South Shore Drive. I said I would go visit their place, have a look. I went down the road, I got to the first driveway and I had to turn around. Cause I thought my car was gonna fall apart. The road was that bad. So I'd apologize, I can't get down the road, I thought my car was gonna fall apart, there's no cell phone service and. I just apologized. And also I just want to say thank you to, and this is out of copy coming out right here. I want to thank everybody for honking and being supportive of me on strike. It's been kind of hard, but I appreciate all the people on, all the training conductors too. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilor Cassidy.
Yeah, for myself, hydro board meeting at the end of last month. Just had pace last night at the AGM. We'll finally get through that. Yeah, did take part of some of the programming at the library, some of the rock painting, stuff like that. Helped put on the Bombers golf tournament, and we did make a donation to Home Hardwares as well for some silent auction stuff as well. And just wanted to, you know, give a shout out and kudos to the folks running the day camp. They've been doing a very good job this year. Daughter's been in it for a week and have a really good experience. So. Good stuff.
Councilor
I'll be really fast. I had no meetings.
Thank you, Councilor Nagle. Met with, at the beginning of the month, met with Saul Mamakwe and Henry Wall in Dryden, had a breakfast meeting and discussed the declaration of emergency by council previous meeting on the mental health and addictions issues. And today you will see a letter I copied to council that I addressed back to Saul on that issue. KDSB regular board meetings and special board meetings. Attended the Chief Bull came in and we did the annual flag raising at the TIC for the Lac-Seul First Nation flag, and then joined Chief Bull at the Yalwin Slifna joint powwow for Indigenous Peoples Day. And from actually, that was after being at the Friendship Center ran also a powwow this year on the municipal beach. So I attended both of those. Usual meeting with Eric Melillo and discussed the Grand Council Treaty 3 declaration, and copied him on the letter today as well. Met with a Filipino group who won my engagement quite a few months down the road at a cultural event. The Northwestern Health Unit, various meetings, especially regarding the strengthening public health input to the government before they finalize what they're going to do on public health matters. Met with various local citizens. We had our first Silicon OPP detachment board meeting, the new version of the Police Services Board. Amo Health Task Force that I discussed earlier, that Councilor Costco. Telephone meeting with Dr. Folk on physician recruitment, and we're going to put together a meeting. We agreed with the CAO, Dr. Folk, myself. I think he's going to bring Dr. Laxo and Councilor Timpson. You'll be part of that informal meeting to be arranged at the availability of everybody. Various check-in meetings with the CAO. And we had an Ontario Health Team meeting yesterday. The meeting with Mayor Don DeGenova from Tweed, which is just very interesting. Great people, and I'm sure they have their burdens on their tax base as well. And he told me that they had to raise their taxes 14.7% this year. I'm not sure where they were before, but that's one big jump.
17.8 the year prior.
It was 17.8 the year prior. My goodness. I think it was last night, I went to the Rotary International Canoe Trip, the annual Rotary canoe trip that they've been doing now for about 30 years. Go and I sign certificates along with their president, they're presented. But I was thinking, what ambassadors they bring in about 15 students a year, 18 and 19-year-olds from all over the world. this year, Germany, France, Spain, Italy, Taiwan. Forgive me, I know I've forgotten a couple, but they've had students from Israel, from Russia, from just Japan, all over the world. 15 a year, and you think they go, their ambassadors, so 30 times 15, 450, 500 times their 10 closest family members and whatever, that's 5,000. And then their Rotary clubs, it's thousands of people who learn, and this canoe trip is something that it'll be a life event for them. It's really quite something. So great ambassadorship. Congratulations to the Rotary Club for doing that for 30 years. Lots of work goes into put that on. And Canada County Day celebrations on Canada Day. All right, we will move into closed session at 7:50 p.m. to discuss subject matter relating to information explicitly supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board by Canada, a province or territory or crown agency of any of them pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, section 239(2)H, one item KDSB matters, and subject matter relating to a proposed acquisition of disposition of land by the municipality pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, one item Bigwood property. Motion to move into closed session. Councillor Cassidy, seconded by Councillor Bowen, all in favor, carried. And then out from closed session. Through
you, Mayor Lawrence. Through Mayor Lawrence, that council ratifies staff relative to the Bigwood property sale as discussed in closed session.
Motion moved by Councillor Cassidy, seconded by Councillor Bowen, all in favor, carried. Thank you. Confirmatory bylaw number 69-24, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the municipality of Sioux, July 17th, regular council meeting be read first, second, and third time and passed. Moved by Councillor Ben Guido, seconded by Councillor Lego, all in favor, carried. Good night and thank you.
Okay, so it's, that's the solution. No, that's not, because it was. Companies for this. Yeah.